folks, it's Dave Kryszczak, president of Spartan Digital. We are special forces marketing for home service companies, specifically in the website design and digital marketing space. I want to talk about today for our command post. This is episode 3 of the typical agency stuff I'm hearing. A couple good stories just from having an agency now since we started it just over a decade ago. And why cheap marketing usually costs more in the long run. In our business, sometimes we get commoditized, and that's not the right partners for us here at Spartan as an agency. But funny story is when I had a client come back to me 2 years ago in 2022, they just called us back and they signed up with us basically on the spot. And the moral of the story was they said we should have hired you sooner because of the lack of communication, the lack of situational awareness. They didn't actually know what they were paying for. All of the integral based stuff that we talk about every time that we go on a sales call or go through our entire process, that's a little bit longer than most companies, and that shocks some new partners of ours because of the amount of time we actually want to take and invest into our partner's business and how we're helping them grow that. We've all heard that phrase of, you think a professional is expensive, wait till you hire an amateur, right? Especially in home services. If you have somebody coming in here to redo your kitchen, redo your dining room, fix some plumbing. A buddy of mine's company, one of our first clients years ago, the tag was, we fix what your husband fixed. And I think that's a fair judgment in our business as well on the professional services side. But I think you can physically see it in your home services niche. That same rule applies to us here in the marketing world. That trap of, the cheaper the better, the AI can do it all in autopilot. We're happy to support you through that. We have a lot of clients that use AI while also having a full service package with us. And a lot of false promises from other companies that just aren't true, and they're not worth lying about up front because it doesn't make for a good, solid business relationship. And that is why most of our partners stay 5, 10, with some clients that have been with us ever since the beginning. So I hope that'll stay up to our 15 and 20 year mark. We're actually breaking down why cheap marketing is more expensive in the long run and how it would actually damage your brand's reputation and your rankings over time. From a partnership perspective, when we like to do business with other companies, right, it's not just same thing in your business, or if you're in the management role or the sales role of your business. You don't want every customer, right? But I'm getting ready to go talk to a bunch of college students later. When you start, you do want to take on as many customers as humanly possible that you're comfortable with, just to get some experience. Once you've done it for a while, then you can start to pick out who you like, why they're important, and who's a good customer fit for you. That's what we've done here at Spartan, and why we ask so many questions when we meet with our partners. We want to know if it's going to be a good personal business relationship, and typically we can make the shop side of our business do really well. I would say the same thing in home services, right? You have clients that pay good money, but they don't have the best personal acumen to them. Obviously, good money is good money, but you also like who you work with, unless you're in a business where you don't interact with humans. But interacting and getting that positive human connection there too is great on the reputation side. From a marketing lens, I noticed that when people start to commoditize us, it's not a good fit for us personally, just as an agency. I've seen the end of that road. I've seen the light at the end of that tunnel. You're going to fire us over the dumbest things that aren't even our fault. Not to say we're perfect. So, mistakes do happen. But from a business that understands who wants to work with us, they have to want to market and they have to want to spend money. It doesn't have to be with us, but they have to want to grow the company. Not putting ads into the company and expecting it to grow on fire overnight is an impossible metric. I would also say a lot of our partners come to us with a strategy they want us to execute, which is fine. We're happy to review that, but they also need us to help them with that strategy. And not to focus too much on the strategy up front, because more of the executables and more phones ringing will solve your problem of, I'm not getting enough work, things aren't happening. But the panic buying, the cheap, not connected services, websites over here, I run ads through this guy, I have some girl in my office doing social media, all of that is there, and that's great. An old sales line from a coach of mine was activity does not equate to performance, right? So all of this stuff can be happening, but what's actually coming of that? If we're spending $5,000 a month as your marketing budget, including your people and your shirts and your everything, right? How much is coming back in the door? And if we don't know that number, is that an important number to you? If the answer is yes, that's typically a good partner fit for us. If it's not, I can't help you because we don't know how to demonstrate our success to you or our failures. That's where it comes into really knowing your numbers too, in just terms of having good business acumen and knowing your finances. Because a lot of this stuff coming in and out to agencies like ours, your other vendors, bringing that back in is just as important. And then the opportunity cost of blowing all this money without getting any actual performance back. We're getting a lot of clients coming to us from other bigger agencies that are just spending, but there's no actual business goal attributed to what they're spending all this money on. We are trying to achieve 2 more jobs a week on paper, right? That's our big North Star for a sub-$1 million company, right? I need 2 more jobs a week at this clip. We'll make this much, paying you guys this much, paying our guys this much will be profitable. So we'd like to ask all those deep questions to know why we're doing all this stuff, right? We have a lot of clients that come to us that are used to ordering us around like employees. That doesn't work in this business. Obviously, we're not the experts in every business, but we've done a lot of work in a lot of industries for that reason of what works in the elevator space. You'd be really surprised how it works in the roofing space. Vice versa, in the plumbing, flooring, electrical, all of the home services and commercial services are very close cousins in terms of how we get in front of those people. It's typically all the same buyers as well. On our side too, reporting is something that gets hairy. We like to do custom reports at Spartan to what your business goals are. We have some clients that call us every week and they ask very detailed, smart questions that any of our marketing consultants here would ask themselves, our team, myself. And then we have some clients that we meet with once a month. Money's coming in, they're happy. The spreadsheet looks good, dollars and cents. It's a very black and white relationship, right? And that ROI is present. So again, having all your reporting and staying on top of that stuff is great. If you don't have that, that's a big red flag. It's not just one cookie cutter model for how you want your numbers. They are your numbers, right? It's your intellectual property. So we want to have that set up in a way that's satisfiable to you. People always call us, oh, I got all these impressions and all these clicks. That's great. How many phone calls? What's the form submissions like? Are you actually dispatching technicians to these jobs? What's the close rate of the sales guys? Not that that's our concern, but I like to know, your sales numbers. That's actual job conversion, not just activity. Again, the strategic partnership side of our business is really where it's at. Our marketing consultants and our team have spent billions of dollars on ads based off of the aggregate companies they've worked for in the past almost 100 years of combined experience. A true growth partner aligns that marketing strategy directly with your revenue targets and your operational capacity, right? How far do you want to be booked out is a question that I always ask. And in the perfect world, if we can keep that steady, consistent flow at the right budget number, that's right where we want to be, right? You don't want to pay too much, have clients call you for a plumbing company, you're booked 3 weeks out. You can't say yes to those jobs confidently unless you're subbing it out or doing whatever. Stuff like that a lot of people don't think about on our side of the business of the performance that we're actually going to drive to companies like yours. That becomes an issue in digital marketing. Also, the foundations of your marketing attribute directly to the success of all the stuff we're going to run. We have a couple clients over the years that we were saying yes to. They were running big ad campaigns, but all their assets were horrible. They needed a new website. They needed a new brand kit. They needed new sales deliverables for their guys when they got out on the street. They didn't want to pay for all that stuff, and their advertising campaign suffered as a result of not having a good fort first. I always think of it in 3 phases. You have the fort, where you build everything, your brand, your website, your trucks, your assets, your uniforms. We're mostly focused on the digital side here, but just in general. On the defensive side, your SEO, your brand, your reviews, your reputation, right? Get it, Spartan, war, offense, defense. Then on the offensive side, the social media ads, the Yelp ads, the Google ads, everything that we're paying outbound on the street to get people to come into us. And it's really a combination of all 3 of those, but we can't have any offense or defense without the fort. So that is really how we see the most success. And some of our work is now starting to turn into, and what we're quoting on is a lot of upfront work, a lot of video work, a lot of website work, timeless assets, followed by a shit ton of execution. So we just built all this new stuff. Now we're going to run a bunch of ads to it and make it go bang. And then another thing just from our world that I see, a lot of burn and churn companies that we take a lot of new clients from, cheap agencies and guys that are doing stuff for very, very diminutive pricing. There's nothing bad about their business model. It's just a very high churn, high sales based organization without a lot of operational expertise from my experience. Mostly automated templates and then outsourcing a lot of overseas work. There's absolutely no issue with that. There's very successful companies, friends of mine, that do that. It's just the integrity piece and the quality of work piece. I always like the joke that Spartan's conference room ready 24/7 at any time. We've had a couple clients call us out on that, and we're in the conference room and we're getting it done. So it just depends on who you want to work for. And if cost is your best concern, you're probably not associated with us in the first place. And that's okay. I think from some real lessons or some real horror stories coming back to it, these cheap agencies, the executable stuff that you're kind of just on autopilot, and unless we're doing autopilot work like a web host or a web manager or something very basic or low level, you don't want that. In the disaster recovery space and some national franchises that we work with, we're in their ad accounts 9 or 10 times a day when we onboard them, right? And I think that is an important distinction as to nobody's launching rockets in our space. It's the same tools. It's the same setups. It's just some people will do what other people will not to make it successful. And we will win. Hence our whole warrior culture. So that's really important for us as a partner. And then from an integrity piece, just the transparency piece, if you don't know where your domains are, if you don't know where your intellectual property is that you own, it's your IP, I would highly suggest that you get access to that. I'm talking domains, www.yourbusiness.com. Where is that hosted? Does your IT company have access to that? When we work with you, those are things that we're going to be asking for. There's a $20 million painting company one time that didn't own their own website domain. It held the entire deal up for about 6 months. The gentleman was not very happy that he couldn't get his stuff. So when you think of all of your assets and who you have managing them, note that from our perspective, we're a contract for hire shop, right? So you pay us to do your thing. God forbid you ever leave us. It's your stuff. We have professional courtesy and we give it back to the next company or to you internally. But with companies that don't have, real employees, or they're all automated or whatever, be very wary of how people register your intellectual property and who has access to what. From my IT background and, now how big cyber fraud is and all of these overseas things, there's a lot at risk, especially because everything's based off of your website domain. It's an old technology, but it's still, even more so now than ever, the most important asset of your company, your website, your domain, your IP, your brand. And just make sure you know where it is. You know who has access to that and that you still have primary ownership of all those assets. And make sure you didn't sign them away. A lot of agencies hide that in their contracts, and it's a very unprofessional thing to do. That's why I like to make note of it, and just something I like to sleep well at night. That's really it from our side. We do a lot of executables, right? We've built websites, we run the ads, we post the things, we take the content. It has to come from a strategy. And I go back to the business goal thing. We run on EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. And if you're not on something like that, it might be good just to explore something like that, or a Vistage or a group, to kind of get you focused on what goals are actually important, not just dollars and cents, but how do we derive that into quarterly executable strategy goals that we can then derive all of your execution from, right? So it's kind of like business goals make the strategy, and the strategy then derives executables that an agency, yourself, if you're a newer company, your first couple hires can start to do while you're growing in the marketing space. I'll wrap this up here. Just some takeaways and some wrap up. Review all your ownership. Make sure you know where everything is. Your Google business profile, your ad accounts if you run ads, your website, your IP, your domain, even like your source logo files, right? If I want to go get a Spartan logo on the shirt, do we have that in a vector format, it's called, in the graphic design world? If your current agency owns them, it's a massive red flag. Right? It should be a contract for hire. We were just being paid to manage your stuff. Your comms with your current partners, if you have partners, and if you have an internal team, like some of the clients that we work with, if you're large enough, what's your internal versus external comm strategy internal? Are your meetings filled with a bunch of technical jargon, impressions, clicks, CPC, all that bullshit? What actual number matters to you in terms of qualified calls, booked appointments, money in, money out? And are you tracking all that? And if not, do you have the systems in place to do that? And then stop bleeding if stuff's happening, right? We on the private equity side, on some of our major accounts, even when our clients get sold, we meet with the private equity team or the other company buying them to validate spend, accounts, target market, etc. Because it's a new set of leadership, and that is something that you want to have taken care of as you take over this baby or somebody's baby that you're buying. The reason why you're buying it, partially, I would like to think, is that the marketing's doing really well. They have a solid brand. They have a good setup. And that's going to derive into the real cost of staying with a company like ours, or keeping it with a cheap vendor, or kind of doing a hybrid model of agency work for the specialized things that you can't do in-house, and then having your in-house person take care of everything else, which we see a lot of, and it's actually a really great setup. Just to close things out, I mean, if you want a premium, high-paying homeowners to respect your prices, you have to present your business as a premium option online. Cheap marketing attracts cheap customers, and we like to do the opposite of that. Stop wasting your money on random marketing tactics that leave the phone silent. If you feel obliged, in any of our links below, on top of the screen, on the side of the screen, we're happy to give you a free lead generation battle plan audit. It's with myself and a couple of our marketing consultants. Let's look at your actual stuff. Happy to review any reports for free, not selling you anything, and build a strategy that's designed to grow your business for the long haul. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you on the next episode of the Command Post. God bless. Talk soon.